Let me tell you a story that will shake your soul. A story of greed, betrayal, and destiny's terrible justice. In the village of Ìlémí lived a blacksmith named Adétán. His hands could turn iron into beauty. His wife Morayọ carried their first child in her womb, and every evening, he would place his rough palm on her belly and whisper promises of a better tomorrow. "I will give our child everything," he would say. "A home with strong walls. Food that never runs out. A name that commands respect." Morayọ would smile, her eyes soft with love. She believed him completely. She believed in the man who walked on to dusk, whose sweat smelled of smoke and determination. But destiny was watching. And destiny had other plans. One morning, as the sun broke through the clouds, a messenger on horseback arrived at their small compound. The entire village gathered to see what brought royalty to their humble street. If only Adétán knew what that moment would cost him. The messenger wore the colors of Ìlémí, the great kingdom beyond the hills. His voice rang clear and commanding. "The king seeks a master blacksmith," he announced. His daughter, Princess Ìlémí, is to be married. Her dowry must include weapons and jewelry crafted by the finest hands in the land. The chosen craftsman will be rewarded beyond imagination. Adétán's heart pounded. This was the opportunity he had prayed for. The chance to lift his family from poverty forever. Morayọ gripped his arm. "Be careful, my husband. Sometimes golden opportunities come wrapped in thorns." But Adétán's mind was already racing with possibilities. Royal patronage meant wealth, status, security. Everything he wanted for his child. "I must go," he told his wife that night. "I will return in 3 months with enough gold to build you a palace." Morayọ's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. She trusted him. She loved him. He left at dawn, carrying his tools and his dreams, leaving behind the woman who believed in him and the child growing in her womb. The palace of Ìlémí took Adétán's breath away. Walls of white stone gleamed in the sunlight. Gardens bloomed with flowers he had never seen. Servants moved like silent shadows, attending to every need. But nothing prepared him for Princess Ìlémí. She entered the workshop like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Her beauty was the kind that made men forget their names, their homes, their very souls. Her skin glowed like polished bronze. Her eyes held secrets that promised everything. "So you are the blacksmith everyone praises," she said, her voice like honey and silk woven together. Adétán bowed low, suddenly aware of his rough clothes and calloused hands. For 3 days, he walked under her watchful gaze. She would visit the workshop, asking questions, laughing at his stories, standing close enough that he could smell the perfume in her hair. On the 4th day, as he presented a completed dagger with an ivory handle, she placed her hand over his. "A man who creates such beauty deserves beauty in return," she whispered. Back in Ìlémí, Morayọ's belly grew round and full. The baby kicked strong and often, as if impatient to meet the world. But her husband did not write. No messenger came with news or money. The other women in the village whispered when she passed. Their eyes held pity mixed with something else. Knowledge they did not want to share. One evening, old Olawùmí, the village seeress, came to Morayọ's door. Her face was grave. "Child, sit down," the old woman said. "The spirits have shown me troubling visions." Morayọ's hands trembled as she lowered herself onto a wooden stool. "Your husband walks a dangerous path," Olawùmí continued. "The palace holds him in chains of gold and desire. The princess has set her trap, and he has walked into it willingly." "No," Morayọ whispered. "He loves me. He loves our child." But even as she spoke, she felt the truth in her bones. Something had changed. Something had broken. That night, birds fell silent. The air grew heavy. The gods themselves were watching. The news arrived like a knife to the heart. A traveling merchant, stopping in Ìlémí for water, spoke carelessly in the market square. "Did you hear? The king's daughter has chosen a blacksmith as her husband." A commoner elevated to prince. "The wedding will be the grandest in generations." Morayọ heard the words from her doorway. For a moment, the world stopped spinning. Then pain ripped through her belly. The baby was coming early, triggered by shock and heartbreak. Women rushed to help her, but Morayọ pushed them away. She stumbled toward the sacred river, driven by instinct and something deeper. Thunder roared across the sky though no rain fell. Lightning danced between the clouds. At the riverbank, Morayọ collapsed. Her screams mixed with thunder. Her tears fell into the water like prayers. And when the baby finally came, lightning struck the river itself. The water glowed with supernatural light. The child's cry was strong and fierce. On his tiny palm, clear as a brand, was a mark shaped like a crescent moon. In the palace of Idro, Adétán stood in robes of silk and gold. The wedding ceremony filled the great hall with music and celebration. But he could not smile. His hands trembled as he spoke the sacred vows. His voice cracked when he promised eternal loyalty. In his mind, he kept seeing Morayọ's face, hearing her gentle voice, remembering the child he would never meet. Princess Ìlémí noticed nothing. Or perhaps she noticed everything and simply did not care. Her smile was victorious, her eyes cold despite their beauty. The king's chief priest, an ancient man with eyes that saw too much, raised his staff. "Do you swear loyalty to this throne and this princess, unto death itself?" he demanded. The words felt like a noose tightening around Adétán's neck. But the palace, the gold, the status, it was all so close. He had come too far to turn back. "I swear," he whispered. At that exact moment, a black vulture crashed through the window and landed on the wedding table. It tore into the ceremonial meat with savage hunger. The guests gasped. The priest's face went pale. Bad omens were not to be ignored. That same night, under the same storm, two children entered the world in two different ways. In the palace, Adétán became Prince Adétán, surrounded by wealth and hollow congratulations. Musicians played. Dancers moved like shadows. Wine flowed like rivers. But the blacksmith-turned prince felt emptiness growing in his chest like a wound. By the riverbank, Olawùmí wrapped the newborn boy in a clean cloth. Morayọ, weak from labor and heartbreak, held her son close. "What will you name him?" the old woman asked gently. Morayọ looked at the crescent mark on his palm, still glowing faintly in the darkness. She thought of the father who abandoned them, the future stolen, the injustice of it all. "Olawùmí," she whispered. "God knows my suffering." But before dawn could break, palace guards arrived. The king had ordered silence. No scandal could touch his daughter's marriage. Morayọ and her child had to disappear. Olawùmí grabbed the baby and fled into the forest, leaving Morayọ to face the guards alone. A mother's sacrifice, time purchased with her own freedom. Years passed like water through fingers. In a hidden clearing deep in the forest, young Olawùmí grew strong and curious. Olawùmí became the only mother he knew, teaching him the language of plants, the wisdom of ancestors, the power that lived in earth and sky. The boy was different. Animals approached him without fear. When he touched water, it seemed to respond. The crescent mark on his palm would glow during thunderstorms. "Why am I different?" Olawùmí asked one evening as they sat by their fire. Olawùmí looked at the 10-year-old boy, seeing destiny written in his eyes. "Because you were born in betrayal and bathed in lightning," she said. "The spirits marked you for a purpose." "What purpose?" The old woman stirred the fire, watching sparks rise into darkness. "That, child, you must discover yourself. But I can tell you this, your life is connected to a throne. To power. To justice that must be claimed." Olawùmí stared at his marked palm, feeling something ancient stirring in his blood. In the palace of Idro, Prince Adétán's life had become a beautiful prison. Princess Ìlémí, now his wife, ruled him with cutting words and cold contempt. The love he thought he saw had been an illusion, a trap baited with beauty and promise. "You forget your place, blacksmith," she would say when he displeased her. "I made you. I can unmake you just as easily." The king grew old and strange. He suffered terrible dreams, visions of a boy with fire in his eyes, a boy who would destroy everything. One night, the royal oracle was summoned. She was a blind woman whose visions never lied. After burning herbs and chanting prayers, she spoke in a voice that seemed to come from somewhere beyond the world. "A forgotten son rises from the place you buried him. The blood you tried to erase now seeks the crown. He carries the mark of kingship, born from betrayal." The king's face went white. What son? What betrayal? But the oracle had already collapsed, foam at her lips, the vision too powerful for her mortal frame. Adétán heard these words from outside the chamber, and fear gripped his heart. Olawùmí, now 16, wandered near the sacred river where he was born. He came here often, drawn by something he could not name. Today, the water seemed to call to him. He knelt at the edge, staring at his reflection. As he washed, the water began to glow. Images formed on its surface, a woman's face filled with love, a man turning away, a palace gleaming with false gold. "Mother," Olawùmí whispered, though he did not know why he said it. The crescent mark on his palm burned like fire. The water showed more, a blacksmith's hammer, a wedding, a throne built on lies. Then a voice, neither male nor female, spoke directly into his mind. What was stolen must be returned. What was broken must be made whole. Olawùmí stumbled backward, his heart racing. When he looked up, a figure stood across the river. A warrior in ancient armor, face hidden behind the ceremonial mask. The warrior knelt, pressing his forehead to the ground. "My prince," the warrior said. "The spirits have waited long. Command us." That night, Olawùmí finally told Olawùmí the full truth. They sat by the fire as she revealed secrets held for 16 years. She told him of Adétán the blacksmith, of Morayọ the abandoned wife, of the cruel choice and the broken promise. But the deeper secret was yet to come. "Your mother Morayọ was no ordinary village woman," the old seeress said, her voice heavy with importance. "She was the lost daughter of King Oramo, the rightful ruler of these lands. He was overthrown and murdered by the grandfather of the current king. Your mother fled, hiding her identity to survive." Olawùmí's eyes widened. "Then I am true royalty. Not by marriage or chance, but by blood and birthright. The throne of Ìdírò was stolen from your grandfather. The man who abandoned you serves the family who murdered yours." Rage and purpose flooded through Olawùmí like molten iron. Everything suddenly made sense, the mark, the visions, the power he felt. He stood and walked to the river. Under the full moon, he spoke an oath that made the very air tremble. "I will restore my mother's name. I will take back what was stolen. Or I will die trying." That night, Olawùmí dreamed of a crown. It floated before him, burning with white fire yet never consumed by the flames. When he reached for it, it moved away. When he stopped chasing, it drew closer. A voice echoed through the dream, ancient, powerful, absolute. "Only truth can wear this crown. Only justice can hold this flame. Only the righteous can bear its weight." Olawùmí woke suddenly, his body covered in sweat. On his sleeping mat, where his head had rested, were ashes. They formed a perfect circle. In the center of the circle, a crown shape, precise and unmistakable. Olawùmí entered and saw the ashes. Her face showed no surprise, only grim confirmation. "The ancestors have accepted your oath," she said. "The path ahead will be dangerous. Kings do not surrender thrones. Spirits do not release their hold without a fight. I'm ready, Olawùmí said, though fear and doubt gnawed at him. No one is ever ready, the old woman replied. But the righteous move forward anyway. She handed him a cloth bundle. Inside was a knife made from a meteorite, passed down through his mother's royal line. The festival of masks came to Idro, a week of celebration when everyone wore elaborate disguises and the boundaries between rich and poor temporarily disappeared. Olawùmí saw his opportunity. Dressed in borrowed festival clothes and a carved wooden mask, he entered the capital city. The streets exploded with color and music. Dancers moved in waves. Drummers pounded rhythms that shook the ground. He moved through the crowds, watching, learning, searching. Then he saw him. At the head of the royal parade, standing beside Princess Ìlémí in a golden chariot, was his father. Adétán wore princely robes, but his eyes looked tired, haunted. The man who had chased dreams of gold now looked like a prisoner of it. Their eyes met across the crowd. For one frozen moment, father and son stared at each other through the chaos of celebration. Neither knew who the other was, but something passed between them. Recognition without knowledge. Connection without understanding. Lightning split the cloudless sky. People screamed and scattered. The parade halted. Everyone looked up at the impossible storm forming from nowhere. When Olawùmí looked back, his father was staring directly at him. Later that night, Olawùmí wandered the palace grounds, invisible in his mask and the festival confusion. He witnessed a guard viciously whipping a young servant boy in a shadowed courtyard. The child's cries pierced the night. Without thinking, Olawùmí intervened. His movements were swift and sure, as if the warrior spirit that had appeared at the river guided his body. He disarmed the guard and freed the boy. "Run," he told the child. But the servant boy grabbed Olawùmí's arm. "Please, listen. You don't know what happens here. The king is dying. Dark magic keeps him alive. Princess Ìlémí performs rituals every full moon, drinking blood, chanting names." "What names?" Olawùmí demanded. "I don't know all of them. But one is spoken with such hatred it makes the air cold. She calls it over and over, Olawùmí. She curses that name, binds it, tries to destroy it." The boy fled into darkness before Olawùmí could ask more. The next morning, the servant boy was found dead in the palace gardens. His lips had been sewn shut with black thread. A warning. A message. Olawùmí could not leave the capital now. Something dark was unfolding, and his name was woven into it. He hid in the forest at the city's edge, watching the palace by day, investigating by night. On the night of the full moon, he crept close to the palace temple. Through a window, he witnessed a scene that froze his blood. The king, frail and barely alive, sat propped on cushions. Princess Ìlémí stood before an altar, dressed in black, her beauty transformed into something terrible. A goat lay bound on the altar, its eyes wide with animal terror. Ìlémí chanted in a language that predated words. She held a ceremonial blade that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Olawùmí," she hissed. "Son of betrayal. Child of the marked hand. Your blood is the key. Your death is the lock. With your life, I seal my power forever." She plunged the blade into the goat. Its scream sounded almost human. Olawùmí stumbled backward, horror and rage warring in his chest. That night, he dreamed the goat spirit visited him. "Your blood is the key," it repeated. But not to her power. To the truth. Yeosomi came to him in the forest, her face urgent. "The time has come," she said. "You must find the stone of Oramo. It was buried where your grandfather, the true king, fell. Only that stone can reveal the rightful heir to anyone who touches it." "Where is it?" "In the Cave of Echoes, 3 days' journey into the mountain. But guards will be watching. Princess Ìlémí knows the stone exists. She has tried and failed to find it herself. Olawùmí gathered his few possessions, the meteorite knife, a water skin, dried meat. When you return, the old woman said, gripping his shoulders, everything will change. Kings will fall. Truth will burn. Are you ready? I have no choice. We always have a choice. You choose justice. Olawùmí set out at dawn, following Ye Osanmi's directions. On the second day, he sensed he was being followed. On the third day, as he approached the cave entrance, soldiers emerged from the trees. Leading them was Prince Adétán himself, sword drawn, face hard with duty he did not want. Father and son faced each other, neither knowing the terrible truth between them. The fight was fierce and desperate. Adétán was skilled, trained by royal guards. But Olawùmí fought with something beyond training, a fury born of abandonment, guided by ancestral spirits, powered by destiny itself. Their blades clashed. Sparks flew. Sweat and blood mixed. During a close grapple, Adétán's hand closed around Olawùmí's wrist. His eyes fell on the crescent mark on the boy's palm. The world stopped. Adétán's sword fell from his nerveless fingers. His face went white as death. Where did you get that mark?" he whispered. Olawùmí jerked his hand free, breathing hard. "From the woman you left to die. From the wife you abandoned for gold and beauty. From my mother, who gave birth alone by a river while you married a princess." The words landed like physical blows. Adétán's legs gave out. He collapsed to his knees, realization crashing over him like a wave. "No," he breathed. "No, no, no. The baby, my son, Olawùmí," the young man said, his voice cold. "The name my mother gave me. A name that means, God knows my suffering. Did you ever think of us? Did you ever wonder?" Adétán's face crumbled. 16 years of guilt, buried and ignored, erupted all at once. The soldiers, confused by their prince's collapse, maintained distance. Adétán waved them back. Father and son sat on opposite sides of the forest path. Between them lay years of betrayal and pain. "I thought about you every day," Adétán said, his voice broken. "I told myself you were better off. That the gold I earned would somehow reach you. I lied to myself until the lies became truth." "You chose wrong," Olawùmí said flatly. "I know. God, I know. But you need to understand, Ìlémí, the princess, she's not what she seems. She used dark magic to trap me. Once I married her, I became her prisoner. She's not fully human. She's something else, something ancient and evil." Olawùmí's eyes narrowed. "Tell me everything." Adétán revealed it all, the rituals, the blood sacrifices, how Ìlémí fed on the king's life force, how she had somehow known about Olawùmí and had been trying to destroy him before he could threaten her power. Hidden in the trees, a palace servant listened to every word. The moment the conversation ended, the servant slipped away, racing back to the capital to inform Princess Ìlémí. The trap was about to spring shut. Princess Ìlémí moved with terrifying speed. When the servant brought news of Adétán's confession and the mysterious boy with the crescent mark, her beautiful face twisted into something monstrous. She prepared a poison, odorless, tasteless, devastating. That evening, she served Adétán wine with her own hands, smiling sweetly. "My dear husband," she purred. "You look troubled. Drink. Rest." Adétán, consumed by guilt and exhausted from the encounter with his son, drank without thinking. Within an hour, his body betrayed him. Convulsions. Fever. Pain that felt like knives in his belly. Ìlémí screamed for guards. "Treason," she shrieked. "The prince has been poisoned. He tried to kill the king and take the throne." Servants found a vial of poison planted in Adétán's chambers. Documents forged with his seal, outlining a plot against the crown. As guards dragged him away, Adétán's strength failed. But he used his last breath of freedom to shout words that echoed through the palace halls. My son lives. The true heir lives. His name is Olawùmí. The king, roused from his dying stupor, heard these words. His ancient face contorted with rage and fear. Find this son, he commanded. Bring me his head. Guided by dreams and the pull of his marked hand, Olawùmí found the cave of echoes. Inside, the darkness was absolute. But as he moved deeper, his palm began to glow, casting blue-white light that revealed ancient paintings on the walls, the history of his grandfather's reign, the betrayal, the murder, the theft of the throne. At the cave's heart sat a stone altar. On it rested a single grey stone, no larger than a fist. Olawùmí approached carefully. Every instinct screamed that this moment mattered more than anything before it. He reached out and touched the stone of Oramo. Power exploded through him. Visions flooded his mind, every king who had ever ruled, every decision, every battle, every triumph and failure. He saw his grandfather's face clearly, felt the old king's love for justice, his dedication to the people. He saw his mother as a child, innocent and happy before tragedy struck. He saw the truth of what had been stolen and why it mattered. When the visions faded, Olawùmí stood taller. The stone had burned away his doubt. Spirits of ancient kings surrounded him, visible only to him, nodding in recognition. Rise, King of Truth, they whispered in unison. The sky over Idiro turned black. Thunder roared without pause. Lightning danced between clouds. The sacred river burst its banks, flooding the lowlands. Trees bent as if in worship. Birds fled in massive flocks. In her hidden shelter, Yeosunmi stood with arms raised. The gods demand justice, she called to the storm. The time of false kings has ended. Throughout the kingdom, people felt the change. Something fundamental in the world was shifting. Even those who did not believe in spirits or destiny felt it in their bones. In the palace dungeon, Adétán, weak from poison, lifted his head. Through his cell's small window, he saw the supernatural storm and knew what it meant. My son, he whispered. Forgive me. In the throne room, Princess Ìlémí felt power draining from her stolen spells. The king gasped, his magically sustained life beginning to fail. Something has changed, she hissed. The balance has shifted. Outside the city walls, Olawùmí walked toward the capital. Behind him, thunder spirits took physical form, towering figures of lightning and wind, following their rightful king. The siege of Idiro had begun. Chaos erupted as Olawùmí approached the palace gates. Guards rushed forward to stop him, but when they looked into his eyes, they saw something that made them drop their weapons. Some fell to their knees. Others simply stepped aside. The marked palm glowed like a torch. Thunder followed his footsteps. The very air bent around him. He walked through corridors that parted before him. Servants pressed themselves against walls. Nobles fled. The palace itself seemed to acknowledge its true master. Finally, Olawùmí entered the throne room. The king sat slumped on his throne, barely breathing. Guards flanked him, but their hands trembled on their spears. And there, standing before the throne in black robes, was Princess Ìlémí. But the beautiful woman was changing. Her human disguise was failing. Her skin began to shimmer and crack. Her eyes glowed red. Her voice, when she spoke, came from somewhere deep and ancient. You dare challenge me, boy? I am older than this kingdom. I have toppled empires and devoured kings. Your grandfather's death was my work. Your mother's suffering was my pleasure. Olawùmí raised his marked hand. Then answer for your crimes. The battle that followed was unlike anything witnessed in the mortal world. Ìlémí shed her human form completely, revealing her true nature, a spirit of consuming darkness, fed by greed and blood, ancient beyond measure. She held black fire. Olawùmí called lightning from his palm. The throne room exploded with supernatural forces. Guards fled. The king collapsed, his artificial life support gone. Stone walls cracked. "You think you can defeat me?" the spirit shrieked. "I am eternal." "Nothing evil is eternal," Olawùmí replied. He remembered his mother's suffering. His father's betrayal. The servant boy with sewn lips. Every victim of this creature's hunger. The crescent mark on his palm blazed with light that seemed to come from the sun itself. "I call the river," Olawùmí shouted. "I call the thunder. I call the justice of my grandfather's blood." The palace floor split open. Water from the sacred river burst through, glowing with the same light as his mark. Lightning followed the water, striking again and again. Ìlémí's true form began to dissolve, her ancient power finally meeting something stronger, truth, backed by destiny, wielded by righteousness. Her final scream shattered windows. Then she was gone, reduced to ash that scattered like dust. Silence fell over the ruined throne room. The king was dead, his body finally released from the dark magic that had sustained it. Guards cautiously returned. They found Olawùmí standing amid destruction, the stone crown from his dreams now resting on his head, made of light rather than gold, visible to all who looked. Someone brought Prince Adétán from the dungeons. The poison had weakened him terribly, but he was alive. Father and son faced each other in the throne room. Adétán knelt, tears streaming down his face. "Kill me," he said. "I deserve death for what I did to you and your mother." Olawùmí stood over him, the royal spear in his hand, the traditional weapon of judgment. The court held its breath. According to ancient law, Olawùmí had every right to execute the man who had abandoned him. The spear rose. Then Olawùmí let it fall to the floor with a clatter that echoed through the hall. "You are already punished," he said quietly. "By your own regret. By the life you wasted. By knowing what you lost. Death would be mercy. Instead, you will live with your choices." Adétán collapsed, sobbing. Whether from relief or deeper anguish, no one could say. In the days that followed, Olawùmí was crowned king of Ìdòrò. The ceremony was simple but powerful. Yeosomi performed the ancient rites. The stone of Oromo was placed at the throne's base. The spirits of rightful kings bore witness. Olawùmí's first act as king was to declare his mother's name restored and honored. A monument was erected by the sacred river where he was born, to Morayọ, daughter of King Oromo, mother of the true king. Though she had died years earlier in captivity, her spirit could finally rest. Adétán was banished to the wilderness, forbidden to use his former title or return to the city. He wandered as a beggar, carrying nothing but his guilt and memories. Some say he eventually found a small village and lived quietly, helping poor blacksmiths learn their trade, teaching them that skill means nothing without character. The kingdom flourished under Olawùmí's rule. Justice replaced corruption. Truth replaced lies. The people prospered. And when elders told stories to children by firelight, they always ended the tale the same way. If only Adétán had stayed with his pregnant wife. If only he had valued love over gold. The crown he sought by betrayal would have come to him through his son's success. He would have been father to a king, honored and loved. Instead, he gained nothing and lost everything. Remember, destiny cannot be cheated. What you plant, you will harvest. Choose wisely. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.